Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Philly Factor. My name is Paul Perillo. Well, much has been written about the United States, the history of the United States. Much has also been written about recent wars the United States has been involved in, like the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But little has been written and documented about perhaps one of the members of our greatest generation, not just one member, but a particular group of men who served the United States during World War II. We're talking about the Buffalo Soldiers. Many stories are out there about the greatest generation. In researching this program, I was surprised to learn that according to the Department of Veterans Affairs, more than 16 million members served the U.S. Armed Forces during World War II. There were more than 291,000 battle deaths and more than 113,000 deaths in service. Now, the Department of Veterans Affairs estimates today that only 1.4 million American veterans from World War II are still with us. The VA also estimates that about 1,000 World War II vets die each single day. My next guests are here to document the experiences of soldiers who served in World War II, and in particular, the Buffalo Soldiers. My guests include William Thompson and Helen Black. Helen has been with us before. I want to welcome you both to the program. Helen, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Paul. Thank you.
And first of all, Mr. Thompson, Bill, they call you Fish, so I'm going to call you Fish during the program.
Very good.
All
That
right?
sounds good to me.
I just want to say, on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for your service to this great country of ours.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Your story and reading your book is so interesting. It's one of those things that you can't believe that in the 21st century, that men like yourself served the armed services, served the United States of America in World War II, and yet it wasn't, look, it was war, it was wartime, but soldiers were not treated equally or fairly during World War II.
That's correct, yeah.
That's what you decided, that you wanted to put your stories down into a book form?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. We're going to get into some of those stories. Helen, as I said, you were with us with the program before. How did you learn about William Thompson and his involvement in World War II, and in particular, the Buffalo Soldier?
Well, Paul, it was something like we were saying a little bit earlier, that the world is small in a certain way, and it was actually through research that I had done on a project called Suffering. And when I was here before, I was with Dr. John Gross and Mr. Charles Harmon, and it was actually through Charles Fuss Harmon that I met Mr. Thompson. And Mr. Harmon had said to me, just sort of out of the blue, that there was this gentleman that he knew, that he was friendly with, who was a Buffalo Soldier. I didn't even really know what a Buffalo Soldier was.
Right. And I'm going to have Bill explain what the Buffalo Soldier was.
That's good. I didn't know what a Buffalo Soldier was, but the way that Fuss had explained it to me, or Mr. Harmon had explained it to me, was that here was a man, just as you had said, who had served our country so gallantly and valiantly, and he was carrying around so much information about the Buffalo Soldiers, about his comrades in the Army, and nobody seemed to be really interested in the story. And there was just something about that first of all, I felt it was terrible, but the other part of me thought, well, I want to see it. I want to see what's going on with these Buffalo Soldiers. Yeah. And it was through then Charles Harmon. Our first meeting was a phone meeting.
Right.
And he introduced himself as William Bill Thompson, but all my friends call me Fish, so you can call me Fish.
So again, like just for our audience, if you hear us refer to Fish, we are talking about William Thompson. Right. So we talked about the Buffalo Soldier, and can you describe or define for me exactly who was or what was the Buffalo Soldier?
The Buffalo Soldiers were formed by an act of Congress in the late 1860s. And they wanted to have 6 divisions of black troops. And instead, they broke it down to 4 divisions,
Mm-hmm.
and it became the 9th, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiment.
And so only black soldiers could
yes.
only serve as Buffalo Soldiers
Yeah.
in these divisions.
And the Indians called them buffaloes because of the dark skin and curly hair. They said that they resembled a buffalo. That's how they got that nickname, Buffalo Soldiers.
So when you served, and I just want to give a little bit of background, at the age of 21,
Yes.
recently married, you were drafted then to serve in World War II, and that was in 1942,
1942.
right?
Correct.
The name of your book, I also want to mention here, is An African American World War II Buffalo Soldier Story. You then go to training camp. Where did you go to training camp?
And first we went to Fort Meade, Maryland, got our supplies, equipment, uniforms, and then from there we went to Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, where I was put in the 598 Field Artillery Battalion and Sea Battery of 598. That's like a company.
Right.
And I never will forget in the field house that night, we got in the camp about 3 o'clock in the morning from our train ride from Fort Meade, and we met this tall white officer, the colonel, and he introduced himself. Said, "My name is Ross, R-O-S-S Ross, and I am your B-O-S-S boss." So he let us know from the beginning that he was in charge.
Sure.
And that was my first experience of the service. Yeah.
And Fish, now, you actually then are dispatched, your unit, overseas. You actually see active military involvement on the front lines during World War II.
Yes.
Where did you do battle?
In Italy, we came into combat. We left left the United States in July of 1943.
Right.
And then we got to Oran, Africa, and from Africa we went to Leghorn, Italy. And from there we were introduced into the combat area, and from there we went on up the boot of Italy in combat. We went through 3 campaigns in Italy.
3 campaigns.
3 campaigns.
And when you went through those campaigns and never having served in the armed services and not having friends serve in the armed services, one would think that there's got to be this tremendous amount of camaraderie because everybody's in it together. I mean, everybody's neck is on the line when you're seeing battle. But yet, in the case of your division, the Buffalo Soldiers, they were not. I mean, they were on the front line just like the white soldiers were on the front line. But you were kept pretty much segregated from all the other troops.
Yes, but not so much doing combat. But after, if we wanted to go into town or something like that, sometimes we were segregated. But as long as we were on the front, there wasn't any segregation there because everybody was just about doing the same thing, trying to advance and kill the enemy.
Yep. It would seem to me that the Buffalo Soldiers story, your story, is, can I liken it to the recent, I guess, movies and shows on television about the Tuskegee Airmen? I mean, this was another part of the history of World War II that featured black airmen.
Yeah.
So while they're getting the attention, and they've gotten a lot of attention over the recent years, your situation, your group, your division is not necessarily getting all of the attention like the Tuskegee Airmen are getting attention.
We got very bad press. They said that we ran and we didn't know how to perform our duties, and it was even our people back home got the same impression that we weren't weren't real good soldiers.
Yeah.
But what we got were the replacements that we got were uneducated men, had never fired a rifle before, and some of them were even former prisoners.
Yeah, we had talked before our show
Yeah.
a few weeks ago about how prisoners were actually released from the jails in the United States
Yeah.
to go fight,
Yes.
overseas, and they really didn't care because they
Yeah.
were experiencing a little bit of freedom
Right,
on the battlefield.
Right. They would say if you mess up, we'll put you in the 92nd, and that was the threat that they hung over their heads.
Yeah. Helen, when you heard his stories and you had those initial conversations and you realized that this is a chapter of our American history that really hasn't been written about. I mean, you also told me a story about going into a bookstore, a well-known chain bookstore, looking for information on the Buffalo Soldiers, and even the clerk in the store couldn't point you in the right direction.
Absolutely not. It was interesting, and I did that for a purpose, like just to see what I could learn, what say the ordinary person could learn about the Buffalo Soldiers. And going into this, as you say, well-known chain bookstore, the clerk, who was very kindly, helped me look and said, we don't have any books, but maybe if you look really carefully, you can find a chapter in one of the books.
Right.
And I don't believe there was even that. I think what, just to follow up a little bit on what Fish was saying, I think what was well, there were many parts of this story that were, disturbing, sort of wonderful, such a mix of emotions when you hear about Fish's story. But I think what really was disturbing is that there's that there's a history that is acceptable and known. And then there, and often you hear people say that, like the winners are the people who write the history.
Sure.
But in this case, it seemed as though the white officers were very careful to protect themselves, so that if anything went wrong, they could simply say, oh, it was the black soldiers of the 92nd or whatever, never saying though that they had really failed in their job in being able to command them or to give them, a sense of good morale.
Yeah, and Fish, in your case, I mean, and you probably have experienced it and saw it yourself, that if there was an issue or a problem, that your unit, your division it was the blame game.
Oh,
they
yeah.
would point the finger at you
Yeah.
because they needed to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Could you share a story of one of those experiences that you can remember?
Well, one that stands out is you've heard the reference to the Battle of the Bulge in Germany.
Yep.
That breakthrough came to a white division, the 106th, I think, division, and they don't blame them for the breakdown and the Battle of the Bulge. They don't blame them for it, but they blame the 92nd for a breakdown that happened in Italy at the same time. This all happened in the month of December. You never hear about them being blamed, but they said because of the 92nd that's how they broke through in Italy, and that was far from the truth.
When I assume that Helen must have then approached you and said, Fish, why don't we start to write down many of the stories that you, and we should say, God bless you, you're still going strong. I think your memory is sharper than some 20-year-olds on this campus right now, trust me. Trust me on that. That's met with the highest compliment.
But trust me, not really.
But when it came time to, I guess, write some of these stories and remember, dates, times, and places. I mean, some stuff you could probably go back if you had records or where, what year it was, where you might have been. I mean, how? I mean, it was like opening a treasure chest. I'm guessing, Helen, when you started to talk.
Absolutely, and Paul, just what you're saying, I could not get over his his remembrance, I guess you would say, of dates and times. And it was just a funny thing because as I, fully admit, I know very little about war of any sort. And I learned about battalions and companies and witches regiments.
Right,
Very
right.
well, or extremely well.
Well, I don't know,
Extremely well.
but his memory was really amazing. I would say that the only thing that we had to get from Fish was that I think he is an exceedingly modest man. And so that there were things that I would kind of try to really understand, and that took a while. But as far as memories, he had them all there.
Yeah.
And some of them were just also very, very painful.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. As I said before, war isn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but then to be serving your country, the country that you love, leaving a wife behind at the age, as I said, of 21, being drafted into the service, and then being on the front line to fight this war, it was not easy. But then to have to experience this country that you so much loved, and you had this promising future here in the States, it's all put on hold while you're serving the country, and then the country that you so much love is not really respecting you and your brothers, soldiers. That had to be very painful for you to accept.
Very painful, very painful.
Did you ever, angry, bitter, frustrated? What are some of the emotions? Here it is, 50 some years later, if you will, if not longer. So what, at that time when you either had to deal with the circumstances, or as you said, as that commanding officer said, Ross, boss. What were your options?
Well, we had to go and do our duty and complain later to each other, not to them.
You could never complain to a commanding officer.
No,
Yeah.
no, because you're in trouble then. You're in real trouble.
Yeah. And in your division, in your unit, was there ever a point person for the division? Was there an African American or a black commanding officer that you had to report to, or it was always your commanding officer was the white soldier, the white commanding officer?
Well, most of the time, the white commanding officer. I think they had a few, two or three colonels, three black colonels. One was a chaplain.
Okay.
Who was a colonel, and they had two colonels in the field artillery that had battalions, but all the rest were majors. They had a few that became majors, but not many.
Yeah. When you decided to embark on this journey to put all your thoughts into a book, I know it's one thing to put all your thoughts and feelings down on paper. We talked about this before. And I mentioned the statistics at the outset of the show. With every veteran of World War II that passes away, there's another chapter of our history that is fading. And even today, even though some of these stories are passed down from grandfather to father to son, oftentimes they get kind of lost in the shuffle, and then we really don't know much about dad or granddad and his service to the country. So part of this was to put your story in book form, but I guess part of it is also to set the record straight, to let us know that this is exactly what you and your fellow Buffalo soldiers,
What we went through. Yeah.
what you went through.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever reached out to you or any of the other members to say, hey, look, we're really sorry about this chapter of our history, we're really embarrassed by it, offer an apology,
No apology.
no apologies for the way you were treated?
No apology. And a few, they say they recognize, but you have a few companies or soldiers, but they recognize what you've done, say like the Tuskegee Airmen, but they haven't apologized for what we did to you. The mistreatment, the distortion of facts, the lies. They never said they're sorry, and we won't do it again. But that still sticks with us,
Yeah. And so in writing your story then, as I said, you are able to, and Helen, you're able to set the record straight, to let it be known in printed fashion that, this was an important part of our history. These men were not treated fairly. No apology was ever offered to them. And people could pick up the book and read Fish's story and sort of have a better understanding of what they went through in our service, in their service to our country.
And Paul, I think that's exactly what, I would have been interested probably no matter what, but I think the real injustice of this, and that it, just kind of continues, it never ends. And as Fish is saying, how many years ago, never an apology. It wasn't even until, I guess, President Clinton that the first, what was that, Fish, the first Congressional
Medal of Honor
was given out to an African American person. These things are, I think, shocking.
Sure.
And like you were saying about, like, say, the Tuskegee Airmen, well, they had a certain reputation, they had a certain backing, so they had a certain fame, and well-deserved. But, how about the people like Fish? Just, I guess you would say, ordinary, good, honorable men that served their country, that, as you were saying, loved their country just as much as anybody did. And then were treated not very fairly.
Yeah, and we should mention that the Buffalo Soldier actually has its roots all the way back to the Revolutionary War era. So this is not just a division or an infantry that was born in World War II, but really goes back to the very beginning of the history of this country.
Yes.
But they never told us that they could have to make the group feel that somebody had accomplished something before, and this gave us a little incentive to succeed.
Yeah.
But that was never done to us. A lot of us never heard of the Buffalo Soldier.
Really? So even when in your service, I mean, now we know about it because in reading your book and even going, and searching on the internet about the Buffalo Soldier, you can find out that they go back to the Revolutionary War days. But when you were in service, you never knew that.
No.
Yeah. And so in the few minutes that we have left then, I mean, I have to ask, what is it that you ultimately hope to accomplish then by telling your story? It's great that we see you, we hear you, we could read your words, read your stories. So this legacy then that you're leaving us, I mean, that's just part of what you set out to do with this book.
I would like very much for our government to say, we recognize what happened to you, and we're sorry, and we'll try not to ever let it happen again. How the mistreatment, segregation, and threaten you with court-martial, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a black unit in the whole country that didn't. Things have changed somewhat now. They're not because of the change in the attitude. That things are a little better, but we still have the problem of mistrust
Is there anything that we could do, Helen, in order to solidify the history or the plight of the Buffalo Soldier? I mean, oftentimes we hear people say, well, write your congressman, ask them to take up, Bill's plight and the plight of the Buffalo Soldier. I mean, is there anything that we could do, any change that, well, look, we're not going to be able to change history, but at least extend the apology, acknowledge the mistakes that were made. I mean,
well, you know what, Paul? I think that you having us here is really, it's wonderful, because this is one step, and I guess, like for me, it's a step that I met Fuss and John Gross, and then I met Fish, and invited here to talk with you. I think that is the way that things happen. It does. It's the way things. I mean, certainly, I think writing. We actually sent a book to President Obama. So we hope he reads it.
I hope he does too. I mean, he's got other issues with healthcare right now, but I'm sure that it's sitting on his desk or someone is looking at it.
So.
And maybe it is President Obama that heralds this, this plight or this issue, if you will. But again, it's a great book. How can people get a copy of the book, Helen, if they want to learn more about about it?
Well, they could certainly either email either one of us.
Okay.
And my email is blackhh@umbc.edu, and Fish is
WTFish1@hotmail.com.
Look at this guy.
Is that amazing?
It's amazing. I don't even remember my name half the time,
I
right?
had to think about my email. He just rattles it off.
Well, again, I want to say what a pleasure. And I know we just scratched the surface, Fish, but it's a wonderful story. It's an easy read. It's an eye-opening read in that we learn about you and the 92nd Infantry Division, the Buffalo Soldier. I can't thank you enough for your time and again your service to this great country of ours, and hopefully somewhere down the line. And I hope it's sooner as opposed to later, given the statistics that I mentioned at the outset of the program, that this is something that you actually see and something that is accomplished in your lifetime. And my friend, you have so much more and so much more to give us and to go, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
This was a pleasure.
It was a
and-
pleasure having you
and
here.
Real
again.
pleasure.
It was the steps. It's the little steps that we take.
Absolutely.
So-
And I have to say that Bill is probably the biggest fan of our show here. I really do appreciate that. I'm going to make him the honorary president of my fan club. As a matter
I
of fact.
watch you all the time.
I know he does. I know
He
it.
does.
So again, I want to thank my guest, Helen Black and William Fish Thompson, for being with us here on this edition of the Philly Factor. Until the next time, thanks so much for being with us. Enjoy your day. This is the Philly Factor.